Well, hey guys, welcome back to the show. This is your host, Hunter McWaters. It's good to be with you as always. And this week I have a conversation with Austin Legg. You may know him from social media. He's been in the industry for a long time. He does a lot of marketing and advertising type work in the industry. He also does hunt consulting. He just started doing that. So, if you got a question about doing some kind of hunt you got planned, or you want to plan a dream hunt, he's a good guy to talk to. So in this one, we talk a little bit about, getting into the industry and his story and all that stuff, and just chat a little bit. But also he just got back from a really cool Greenland Musk Ox hunt, which is a pretty unique hunt, but it was something that was kind of a bucket list hunt for him. And circumstances came together and he got to come back and do that. So we hit on a couple different, subjects in this one. So it's an enjoyable conversation. Austin's a pretty interesting, entertaining guy. And again, if you have any questions about booking a dream hunt, he's a good one to talk to. So you can find him on Instagram at Austin, I believe it's austin.legg, Legg. Anyway, go ahead, and if you like what we're doing here, leave me a rating and review, especially if you get a minute. Leave me a written review. That's awesome. I really appreciate those. And be sure to check out the description for different discount codes I got with different companies. Now's a great time to stock up and get ready, whether you got a spring, kind of any more spring adventures coming up, or if you got some family hiking trips, test out gear to get ready for this season. So use the code Hunter's Quest 5. I'm sorry, I can't remember. I can't remember the code. It's in the description. But use the code at Heather's Choice. She just put out a whole new product line with new menu options that are really tasty. So use that there. Also, I just got a code set up with Initial Ascent backpacks. They sent me their IA 6K backpack and frame that I just used on my bear hunting trip. Amazing pack system, and really great company, great guys. So check out Initial Ascent if you are in the market for a backpack. And if you use the code QUEST at Initial Ascent, you will save some money, and you will also be directly supporting the podcast and the show. So I'd really appreciate that. If you need a new backpack, I would love your support. They would love your support, and you would be getting a great product and saving a little dough by using that code QUEST. So leave me a rating, review, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's enough infomercials for today, but go ahead and enjoy this episode and share with friends and family. And, let's just continue this quest together, as I used to say. All right. Enjoy, guys. I'm here with Austin Legg, my guest today, and we got a chance to meet at the expo. And actually, a while back, Baker Levitt from Black Rifle told me I needed to connect with you. So we got a little bit of a chance to talk at the expo, but not a ton. So yeah, man, I just want to get you on and kind of get to know you a little bit. So how you doing today, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. It's been a hectic morning already, but pretty standard, I guess, in my house. But no, I've been good. Yeah. Baker's a good friend of mine, so I appreciate getting that recommendation from him. And
yeah, dude.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to know you a little bit and chat hunting.
Yeah, man. So I noticed before we jumped on, Austin called me from the car. He was running a few minutes late, and I saw some baby seats back there. You got kids?
I got 3.
Nice. How old?
6, 4, and 1. So
oh man, you are for sure. Yeah, I got a 7-year-old and a 2.5-year-old.
Oh yeah, so you get it.
Yep, and we're just potty training the little girl, so that's been fun.
Yep.
Had a little explosion yesterday.
Oh yeah. Every time it's like, we got to get out the door. Next thing you know, there's like poop up their back. It's
that's exactly what actually I was picking up my son from school, and I took her with me. And by the time I got home, it was everywhere, just to keep it PG. But Yeah, man. So, like I said, I don't really know a whole lot about you, and I have a couple of things I wanted to hit just topic wise, but I don't have like a, crazy agenda or anything. But
Sure.
just tell me a little about yourself, man.
So oddly enough, like I've actually worked in the outdoor industry for almost 10 years now.
Oh, nice.
I worked at a couple different places, most recently at Ride On Optics. And then here just within the last couple of weeks, I've actually gone full time on working for myself.
Oh, no way.
So I still work in the yeah, so I still work in the hunting industry. But I own my own business essentially, creating content, managing social medias for brands, doing marketing consulting. Everything I do is in the marketing space.
Okay.
And so now instead of doing it just for one company, I do it for like 8. So
Nice, man.
pretty cool.
So, what kind of content are you creating? Like photography or all the above?
Yeah, it just depends on like what the brand strategy is that we're working on. Like some people just want like brand awareness stuff. And so we're just trying to create content that can be seen by as many people as possible and used like in
Mm-hmm.
as many different avenues as possible. And then some people like want very product specific stuff. So it's like how, if you're trying to sell this pen, this specific pen, and it's like, okay, well, like what makes this specific pen better than all the other pens? Like, let's focus specifically on this. And so it just kind of depends what the strategy is. And then, yeah, it depends if we're doing video or photos or,
Okay.
if they want to focus on emails or whatever. But yeah, so I kind of cater everything towards the specific brand and what they're trying to do. And we create a strategy and then we take off.
Nice, man. So,
Yeah.
what companies are you working with?
So some of them I can't actually say
That's
because
okay.
they don't really want people knowing who's doing what. But
Sure.
I work with a rifle company here in Boise. I work with a training company that does like home defense training and intro to long range type classes,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Um, I work with a suppressor company that manufactures suppressors. I work with a light company that makes like weapon mounted lights.
Cool.
I'm about to work with a software company here pretty soon. I work with like an accessory company. So lots
A lot of
like
different stuff.
everything's all in the same space.
Right.
I'm just about to start working with a like an actual like another software, like another tech company, a hunting tech company. So all within the hunting and outdoor gun space,
Yeah.
but everyone does something a little different, which is nice.
Cool, man. So, where are you from? Are you from out in Idaho?
I kind of moved around a little bit. I've been in Idaho for over 20 years.
Okay.
I consider myself local.
Nice, nice. So, but what's your background? How'd you get into hunting and all that?
I don't really have a great how I got into it story. I didn't have a super good relationship with my dad,
Hmm.
and in terms of like we never did anything together. I probably could count on one hand the number of times I spent just me and him in my whole life. Like we just never spent time together. And so I think I always kind of looked at people and saw the relationship they had with their dads and like going hunting specifically because a lot of my friends were doing that, and just always kind of had that like, I wish I could do that with my dad. Like I wish my
Yeah.
dad would take me hunting, and then, when I was younger, like high school age, one of my best friends, his family, that was like all they did. And the dad always took the kids hunting, and I was so jealous. And I was finally just like, you know what? I'm gonna figure this out for myself. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna, make this my thing. And so I tried to just figure it out, right? And I took hunter's ed. I
Wow, all by yourself, huh?
Dude, it was like my first time deer hunting. I just drove up to where like people go snow skiing and just
Uh-huh.
like walked around on the ski slopes. Like I didn't know what public and private land was. I
Oh,
didn't
well.
know anything, dude. I was just
Yeah.
like
That's pretty awesome though that you kind of just took it by the horns and went out there and just tried.
yeah, but the thing the funny thing is I think it took me I can't remember exactly, but it either took me 2 or 3 years to even see my first buck.
Wow.
Not kill one.
See
I
one.
think I killed one on my 3rd year, but it was either 2 or 3 seasons to just see a buck.
Wow.
And so for a long time, I was just like, dude, these things, like, they don't even
What kind
exist.
of gun did
like,
you
this
have?
is impossible.
Did you just like grab some kind of random gun or something, or what'd you have?
I was given a gun by my father-in-law.
Okay.
He gave me a 300 Win Mag, and I was like, I knew how
So
I could shoot
you were older.
reasonably well.
You were older. You were married when you
Yeah, I
started
think
hunting.
by this point, I think I started. Well, see, that's okay. Let me back up. I think I took hunter's ed at 16 or 17.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I killed my first deer, I was 20.
Okay.
But that's when I inherited my rifle from my father-in-law.
Nice.
So yeah, so it took probably 3 years. And finally, my best friend's dad, who I was telling you about, I think he just felt bad for me because he saw me like walking around the ski slopes and stuff. And was like, let me take you out and I'll help you. And so yeah, I think it was my 3rd year I finally killed my first deer, and then I was just like, okay, I can figure this out. And I mean, that's been 13 years ago now, so it's just been a whew,
nice, man.
Since then, and definitely learned a few things on the way. But yeah, most of it was all just self-taught, trial and error, like figure it out.
Yeah,
and it's tough, but it's been rewarding too.
Yeah, I mean that's the best way to learn, really, is just by banging your head against the wall till you figure it out. What was that first deer like? Can you tell me that story?
Yeah, so I got really lucky because I actually drew a decent controlled hunt tag here in Idaho. And I was just, the thing was though, even if you draw a controlled tag, right, and you know, like you're in a prime area with good deer numbers and good genetics and all those things, you still have to be able to go out and find a reasonable spot to go find deer. Like, it's not just, that doesn't just make it like a slam dunk, right?
Yeah.
And so, so I remember drawing this tag and be like, yes, I drew this awesome deer tag. And then be like, crap, I still don't know how, like, where, like, you know, I was like,
yeah.
And so like I said, I think my friend's dad just felt bad for me. And so he ended up taking me out, and I told him, I was like, please, like, I'll do anything, just take me. And so yeah, we went out, you know, it was down in southern Idaho. We hopped on the 4-wheelers, and at the time, like, the whole backpack hunting backcountry thing hadn't really taken off like mainstream yet. Like, guys were doing it, but for the most part, guys were just like driving around in trucks, driving around on 4-wheelers, dirt bikes, whatever.
Yeah.
And you know, that was like the thing. So we're cruising around on 4-wheelers, and you know, we'd been going all day, and we kept seeing deer from like way far away. And at the time, I didn't have a spotting scope, and so it was like, oh, we got to get close to tell what it is. And by the time you'd ride up on the 4-wheeler, you know, they'd take off. And so I'm still like, maybe we saw some bucks. I don't know. Like, I could never get close enough. Well, finally, like, the sun's going down on the first day, and we come around this corner, and I think we just surprised some deer. There were probably like 8 does and 2 bucks. There was a buck in the front and a buck in the back. And they just did that thing, you know, where mule deer like are on high alert, and, you know, their ears are facing you and they're just staring at you and trying to figure it out. And so we stopped, and I'm looking at it, and I'm just like, my heart's going, you know, 200 beats a minute as I'm looking at these deer. And they were both forkies. Both bucks were forkies, and I didn't even care. I was just like,
yeah, first deer, who cares, man?
Dude, oh man, it was 180 yards, right? So I was like, this is a chip shot. I got this. I was so confident. And he was like, are you sure you want to shoot that buck? I'm like, oh, 100%. Like, there's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
I've been at this for like 3 years just trying to see one. Like, I'm smashing this thing. And yeah, man. So I just set up like on the, you know, shooting off the 4-wheeler, and yeah.
That's awesome.
That was it. One shot and had my first deer, and then I was hooked, man. So yeah, it was interesting though, man. It was like, I definitely couldn't have done it without him, but at the same time, like, I put in so much work to get to that point.
Yeah.
It was super rewarding. I by no means was that, you know, I just heard a story the other day about a guy who went out his first time and killed like a 200-inch deer in Utah. And I was like, dude,
that sucks.
I'm stoked for you. Like, I'm not jealous, But at
Yeah.
the same time, like my story could not have been more different, you know?
Yeah, I almost feel bad for those guys. It's like, where do you go from there? Like, I don't know. Like, I my goal this year is to kill a mule deer because I've killed, tons of whitetail, but I'm from out on the East Coast. I never killed a mule deer yet.
Yeah.
And I actually really like being in this place where it's like, yeah, I want to kill a mature one, but I really don't care if it's huge. Like, I just want like a nice, decent buck. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
like that. Like, I like not having that pressure yet of like, oh, it's got to be huge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, and the funny thing is I've never got caught up in like the size of an animal argument. It's like I get people message me and comment that a lot on stuff because I kill a lot of like 140-inch deer, 150-inch deer,
Mhm.
like, and I don't care. And people are like,
Yeah.
dude, like when are you gonna start killing bigger bucks? I'm like, I don't know, like when the opportunity comes. Like I think my perspective is just so different because I worked so hard and so long just to get my first one
Mm-hmm.
that now it's so hard for me to like pass up on deer when I see them. Like if I
Yeah.
see a decent 4-point, dude, it's next to impossible for me not to pull the trigger because I'm like, dude, for 3 years I was just trying to find a buck.
Yeah.
Granted, I've killed like 40 deer since then, but the like psychologically it still remains where like I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to kill a freaking 190-inch mule deer. I just don't know if I'll ever be that guy who can be that picky just
Yeah.
because of what I went through to get here.
No, I totally get that, man. And I understand the guys that are, been hunting for a lifetime and really want that and whatever. That's cool. Like, but I'm with you, man. Like, if I see an animal, like, of course, I'm at the point where like I don't shoot year and a half old bucks, but
Yeah.
if I see an animal that's like, a mature animal and it gets my heart going, like, I have like no shame in my game at all. Like, I mean, I think that's what it's all about. If it makes you happy, if it's, it's good meat for the table and you enjoy it, but if you want to wait, that's fine too. But for me, I'm kind of with you,
Yeah.
man.
Well, and I more and more in the last probably 4 or 5 years, I've just become really engulfed in like the overall experience of
Mm-hmm.
things and less about just like a specific animal.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've kind of I've tried to kind of find that like there's so much adventure and like culture in hunting.
Mm.
And that to me is as rewarding as like killing an animal. And so, with that being said, the last couple of years I've been trying to like go out of state, go hunt. I went and hunted in South Carolina.
Oh,
It was
cool.
completely different than anything I'd ever done. Then I went and hunted in Georgia, completely different. The deer act's different. The way they hunt is different.
Do you
Then I
hunt with
went to
Baker?
Ohio. Yeah, I went with Baker one time.
Yeah.
I went to Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, like Texas. Like I've been trying to go around and just experience like as many different cultures, as many different like ways people hunt, way the animals act. I've just been trying to get like the overall culture experience and not just worry about killing big animals. And it has been so much fun, dude. So
Yeah.
much fun.
No, that was cool. You ever, so I don't know, have you ever heard of guys hunting? I mean, it's huge here, hunting deer with dogs.
Oh yeah.
Have you done it?
I've never done it. No, I've never done it, but I know
Yeah.
it's really because you're in Virginia, right? Or West
Yeah.
Virginia?
Oh, I'm in Virginia, and that's like,
Yeah.
we have a huge dog hunting culture.
Yeah.
It's not personally my thing as much. I have done it, and I've killed deer behind dogs. It's not as much my thing. But I'm in a dog. So basically, like around here, I mean, we have public land in the western part of the state,
Yeah.
but where I am, there's like almost zero public land. So you either have to own land or like know somebody, and almost all the private land is already hunted. Somebody's got a lease, or their cousins on it, or whatever. Or these hunt clubs lease up tons of acreage, and even that, you got to know somebody to get in one. Finally, like 2 or 3 years ago, through a random connection, I was able to get into one of these clubs, and we have like access to like 8,000 acres, and it's a dog club, and they do dogs like once or twice a week, but then any other time it's just open to still hunting. So I'll go out there. it's more of almost like a social kind of thing. It's totally different experience, but
Yeah.
and you're shooting like buckshot, and you're usually shooting them at full sprint, like with an open sight shotgun. But most of the time, I just go out there and still hunt. But that's the only way you can really get access to land, is to like either join a club or like get super lucky and know somebody or own something.
I know that's like really popular in Florida too, because I've heard that like the deer just get, they hole up in these swamps that are so thick that like you can't get through, and
it's really swampy where I'm at too.
Ways to do it.
But it's totally different, and you're right. There's a lot to it. I mean, the different types of hunting, but it's been like a rebirth for me getting into Western hunting, because I killed my first whitetail with a bow when I was like 14, and the same thing after that first deer is like I am hooked on big game hunting. But then 3 years ago, I think I found Western hunting, and like the physical challenge and like the just it's just a totally different ball game, like you said, and adding in like the backpacking thing and the adventure, and like it was like life changing for me when I found it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would say I was probably 24, probably like 24 when I started getting into the backpack hunting. And no, I was maybe even younger than that. I don't know, 23, 24, something like that. So I hadn't been hunting very long, but I was kind of like, man, this is awesome, because I love backpacking. I love hiking. And so I had like a backpacking backpack. Yeah. And like packed in all my crap. And then I had like this tiny little day pack that I had like buckled to my backpacking pack. So like backpack in, drop all my gear, drop everything, take off my day pack, put that on, go hunting. Well, I didn't have a way to get meat out. Yeah. This is a like literal backpacking backpack and a day pack. And so it was like pretty quickly I was like, okay, like there's a disconnect here, and so then my first job in the outdoor industry was actually at Exo Mountain Gear back in like 2000. What year was that? Maybe 2013, 2014, something like that. 2013, I don't know. And so that was like my first taste at like really high end, nice gear for backcountry hunting. And I was like, oh, okay. So you can do both. You can have a backpack that hauls meat and carries your gun and does all this. And so it was pretty cool. And so from there, it just kind of took off. And then now that's like solely what I do. At least when I'm in Idaho, it's a lot harder going out of state, but here in Idaho, that's pretty much the only way I hunt anymore.
Yeah, I learned a ton from their podcast, Exo's podcast. My first pack was an Exo. Mark's, he's been on the podcast before. He's a great dude.
Yeah, I like Mark.
He's a buddy. And then, so I was like, I wanted to get into Western hunting. I didn't really know how, but like I really wanted to. I was trying to figure it out, and like serendipitously, like that same year, like a friend of a friend messaged me on Instagram. Was like, hey man, he sent like this message out to like 10 people, because it can be kind of hard to find partners for some of these things. And he was like, hey, I'm doing this like walk-in caribou hunt in Alaska. Like, would you be down? I was like, yeah, sure. Like, let's do it. Barely know what I was getting myself into. And then that sent me on this journey of just like learning everything I could. And I like lost a ton of weight, got in shape, and got all the gear. And then like I went on that trip and I was like, yes, this is it. Like, this is what I want to do. And like, after I got back, that's when I started the podcast and started going full in. So
that's cool.
Yeah, man, it's been a really cool journey. So
that's super cool.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. The West is interesting, man. Cause it's like, I can see why from the East, or the South or wherever, looking at us and seeing like, it's just a lot. Like, it's just a lot to try and sink your teeth into and understand and comprehend. And I can see why so many people don't do it. Why they're just like, dude, I'd rather road hunt or ride around a 4-wheeler or, whatever. I get it. Like, and I don't fault anybody who doesn't want to. It's not for everybody. But man, there's just something about being totally isolated
Yes.
having your stuff with you so you're mobile, you know, so if you spot something 3 miles away, that you can say, hey, let's pack camp up and go. Like, let's just go. We'll
Freedom.
figure water out. We've got food on our backs. Like, let's just go. There's something about it, man. It's very freeing feeling. But man, I can see why, you know, being back east or whatever, that you'd be like, no, those people are nuts.
Yeah. I was like, I want to do it. But I was really, the first hurdle that I was really intimidated about was just the tag process, the applications, all that stuff. And now there's like so much good information out there with Go Hunt and even like stuff like podcasts. But still, like I start, like I said, I wanted to, I was about to get into it. And then I kind of hit a wall. I was in a different place in my life too. And I was just like, yeah, I'll just stick to whitetail, you know, it's just like, whatever. It's just easy, you know, kind of like you were saying. But I did have someone kind of like help me along the way, invite me on that first trip. And, but I'm here to say, if you're listening, if I can do it, anyone can do it.
For sure.
Because, and that's kind of what I hope to inspire guys to do. But yeah, man, like, frick, I lost probably like 45 pounds, like getting in shape for that first trip. And like, that was the other thing too, is like, can I do this physically? And you gotta work for it. But having that like goal of like something awesome that you're going to go do, like in a sick adventure that you're like looking forward to, is just, that was a game changer, having like a goal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In terms of fitness.
No, totally. Like there's nothing that motivates you more than having a goal like that out in front of you. Like backpack, like a hike-in trip in Alaska.
Yeah.
That's one of those things, like, dude, if you're not prepared, not only are you going to get seriously hurt, but like you could die, you know?
Yeah. So, and my partner that I was going with was, and my partner that I was going with is ex-Navy Special Warfare. So I was like, this dude's in like top shape. Like and he was kind of like selling me on the trip at first, like, oh, it won't be that bad. But I started looking at what we were actually going to do to get back there, and I was like, yeah, I got to like start working on myself a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
But anyway, I know you just got back, speaking of epic adventures, from a pretty unique hunt that you were telling me a little bit about at the expo. Would you like to share a little bit about that adventure?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. So the funny thing is, let me start the story by saying, I don't like cold weather. I don't like cold. I don't like being cold. I try to do all my hunting in like October, November, so that December, January, like I'm done, you know, and I can be inside and be warm. But I decided this year to do Alaska in December. So I went and hunted Alaska mid-December. Dude, brutal. Dude. Like blizzard every day, 50, 60 mile an hour winds.
Dude, December in Alaska is like another planet. It's like Hoth.
Brutal, right? And so I got back from that and was just like, well, that's it on my cold weather hunting career. Like, I'm done. I'm not doing that again. And so that was mid-December. Well, the Hunt Expo comes around first week, I think, of February. Mm-hmm. So I'm only like 6 weeks removed from Alaska. I've kind of forgot about like all the sucky parts of it. And I'm like, Musk Ox has always been my number one bucket list hunt. Always. Why? I don't know why. I can't really explain it, dude. It's like when I look at a Musk Ox, all I see is an animal that, to me, in my mind, doesn't belong on Earth. Like it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. Like you look at him and you're like, you belong in Star Wars.
It does look Star Wars-y.
Sci-fi movie. Like it's so cool that there's this animal that has survived, you know, tens of thousands of years, like since the Ice Age, in the harshest climates on Earth, and not just survives, but like thrives.
Yeah.
You know, at one point, the Musk Ox population was down, like a lot of animals in North America, was down to like just a few thousand. And they took animals from Greenland and they reintroduced them to Canada and Alaska, and now they're thriving. Like the Musk Ox population is growing. There's tons of hunting opportunities, and it's just an animal that to me is like, it looks like you're hunting a dinosaur.
Yeah.
And so I always looked at that as like, man, that would be like the ultimate adventure.
Yeah.
But part of it was like, people had kind of told me, dude, it's 100% success. It's not hard. It's like shooting a cow. And like people talked down on it. But I didn't really let that get to me. I was like, you know what? I think it's cool, and I think it's going to be an adventure, and I'm going to make it an adventure, and I'm going to have fun. So like whatever. So I go to the Hunt Expo.
It's like, oh dang,
Within
100% success. That sucks.
yeah, right. I was like, coming from
That's
my
cool.
background, I'm like sign me up, dude.
Yeah.
So I go to the Hunt Expo, it with in mind that like I'm finding an outfitter and I'm booking a muskox hunt. Like
nice.
I don't care if I book it 2 years in advance. And, you know, I was like, I can spread the payments out and I'll do, 10% down above. I like have it in my head, totally justified on how I'm going to do this. I'm like, I'm going to make it happen. So I find a guy. All in, it was like $8,000. And so I'm
for
like,
where?
all right.
Alaska
for Greenland.
Greenland. Okay.
And it was I think it was the summer of 23.
Is that because Greenland has kind of the best opportunity or like easiest to get a tag, or why Greenland, or you just want to go there?
Yeah. So like they're muskox in Alaska, but it's very hard to draw a tag.
Yeah.
Very hard to hunt them up there. You can hunt them in Canada, but it's difficult to get to. Well, Greenland's difficult to get to, but it's difficult to get up there, but it's super expensive, like probably double the cost to go to Greenland.
Okay.
The muskox are actually bigger. It's kind of like a different subspecies.
Mm-hmm.
There's like the Greenland musk ox and the barren ground musk ox, and the Canada barren ground musk ox are actually bigger. But I mean, we're talking like 15, 10 minimum, but you're probably pushing like 12, 13, 14, and some guys are even like $18,000.
Wow.
It's a little much for me, right? So I hear 8 in the summer of 23, and I'm like, dude, that's perfect. That's like, a year and a half away. I can save up. I can make this a whole thing. Like, this is fantastic. And so I'm like, give me a minute to like call my wife, talk it over, make sure everything's cool, and then I'll book it. And he's like, okay, great. Yeah, come talk to me later. As I walk away from the booth, I tell one of my friends, I'm like, dude, I'm gonna do it. Like, it's time. $8,000, muskox, And he's like, hey, call my buddy over at Outdoor International. And he's like, hey, come here, you. And he's like, Outdoor International, come here, you come sit with me for a sec. Wow. And he's like, my buddy is a hunting consultant. Hey, and what he does is like, this is Indy. She's my 1-year-old.
Hey, Indy, how's it going?
And he's like, call my buddy because he's a hunt consultant. And so he's free to use. And he's like, you tell him, what your budget is, what you're looking for, yada, yada. And he'll help pair you up with something. Like,
that's cool.
He'll help find a hunt for you. And I was like, well, if he's free to use and stuff, I guess, no harm, no foul. So I call this guy and I'm like, hey, Russ, like, I'm looking at doing a Greenland Musk Ox hunt, and they're telling me it's about $8,000. And I was like, is that a good price? Like, what do you think? This is the name of the outfitter. Is he a good outfitter? I'm kind of asking him questions. And he's like, Austin, why are you calling me? And I was like, what? I was like, Russ, like, it's your job, I was like, this is what you do. And he's like, but you want to do a muskox hunt? And I'm like, yes, muskox in Greenland. And he's so confused. And I've known Russ for a long time. Nicest guy in the world, like one of probably the best bow hunter in the state of Idaho. And so I don't understand why he's acting so weird. Huh. And finally I'm like, Russ, what is the deal? Like, why are you so confused? And he goes, Austin, I'm just trying to figure out why you're calling me right now. Because literally like an hour ago, I had a muskox hunt and I had a bunch of guys cancel because Greenland is requiring you to be vaccinated and these guys are refusing to get the vaccine. And he's like, I'm so confused because I'm just trying to figure out, like, how did you know to call me right now? Wow. And I was just like, well, gosh, I guess just call it fate. But I just got lucky because those guys lost their deposits. They had paid for a huge chunk, almost the entire hunt. And Russ was like, dude, if you'll pay the remainder of their hunt, it's yours.
Oh, no way.
And so I paid a fraction, like a sliver of the total cost of this thing.
That's awesome.
And so he tells me the price. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And I was like, well, when is it? And he goes, it's 3 weeks from now. And I'm like, what? It's 3 weeks from now? And he's like, yeah, you leave like March 6th. I'm like, and so I didn't even tell my wife. I was just like, you know what, for that price, book it, Russ, just book it. Like I'm
I'll
going.
make it work.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so it was like totally, after I'd sworn off, hunting in winter, I just booked a muskox hunt north of the Arctic Circle in the winter.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, I had 3 weeks to prepare, man, and it really was like such a fun adventure. Getting to Greenland is an absolute beast. It was like 5 flights, I think, and like 2 full days. But man, it was incredible. And once we got there, we we arrived in Greenland, and then we took a snow machines, and we rode snow machines for like 2 hours out into the tundra. And they had this little tiny cabin set up out there, no electricity, no running water. It was just isolated out there, and we took all of our food, we took everything in with us. And yeah, and then it was like, all right, I hope you boys are ready. Like, let's get hunting. And dude, it was so nuts. Like, I'd had in my head that muskox were just going to be, and this is from what people told me. And a lot of these people
Right.
never even hunted muskox. I think they just saw it on YouTube, that you would go out and just find these big herds in these flat areas, and then you just shoot them. Not the case at all. Like, Greenland is very mountainous, and there's these big mountains with it's very rocky. There's no trees, and the muskox are so hard to see. Like, it's incredibly difficult to glass, because the muskox are about the same size as the boulders. And so you're glassing these mountainsides, and you're seeing all these rocky boulders and stuff. And then you'll see like a little bit of movement, and you're like, oh, that's a muskox. But at first glance, like, you could be looking at something that's like almost a mile long, and you could glass over it and not see anything. And then you'd glass back, not see anything, glass back, and all of a sudden you'd just catch that little sliver of movement. Like, very difficult to glass. They were not down in the flats. They were up on these big mountainsides. And they're so scared, they're so weary of the sound of snow machines, that you have to glass them from 1 to 2 miles away. And you can't ride a snow machine in, or you'll spook them. And they don't run down, they run up and over the top of the mountains. And so a lot of times, like my stock, for example, was probably at least a mile, if not a mile and a half, on foot in the snow and the like -20 degrees. So it was not easy. I mean, I shouldn't say it was not easy, because I killed mine the first day. So it's like the opportunities were there,
Right.
but it wasn't by any means just like walk out into a field and shoot a cow. Not even close.
Yeah.
And the animals are incredibly tough, man. You know, like I shot, and I made perfect shots down. I mean, they're incredibly tough animals, and I have so much respect for them, man. Like, when you finally get up to them and you see, like, have you ever seen a bison up close?
No.
It's like, when you see a bison up close, you're just
I've seen the taxidermied one.
Okay, yeah, all right. So it's like astounding at how big they are.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh my gosh, like the size of their horns, their necks, their faces, the hump on their back. Like, and it's the same thing with a muskox. Like, you get up to it and you're just like, you are literally, this animal was created solely to survive in the harshest place on earth. It's like, it is huge. It is strong. The fur is, 8 inches thick in some places.
Wow.
I mean, everything about it was made to survive. And so,
what kind of rifle did you take with you?
So getting a rifle through Denmark is actually really difficult. And so I didn't have time to get the permits and get the approvals and everything. So I just used the outfitter's rifle, and it was just a little Tikka 30-06.
Oh, okay. 30-06. There you go.
Yep. Yeah. Classic,
dude.
But yeah, dude, it was so nuts, man. Like, the weather was insane, just super cold. But after we killed our muskox, we took them back to the cabin, skinned them out, had muskox dinner, which was fantastic.
Was it good? Meat was good?
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of moose meat, actually.
Okay.
Where it's like darker, dense. not a lot of fat. It's really good.
Were you able to take some of the
And
meat
then
home?
no, dude, and that's such a bummer. Is like they have an export law that you're
Mm.
only allowed to export like 5 pounds of meat, and I
Mm.
was like, that's not even like that's like a quarter of a backstrap, you know.
Yeah.
So we ate it the whole time we were there in camp, and then we took it back and donated it to the Greenland village.
Yeah.
But then we did get we set some baits, and we hunted Arctic foxes with
Nice.
like the heart and lungs from the Musk Ox. So that was
Mm.
pretty cool. So I shot a really pretty Arctic fox. And then we got to go ice fishing. That was a blast. We absolutely slayed it ice fishing. And then we shot some ptarmigan. We saw
nice.
Arctic hare.
Dude, ptarmigan are delicious, are they not?
Yeah.
So good.
So that was really cool because you know, we saw a ton of caribou, and so I see the caribou shed in the back. Saw a lot of those. And
that
so
was for my
cool
first trip
because,
to
like,
Alaska.
Yeah, that's cool. And so it was awesome because like you always hear about like the Arctic 5 and stuff, and dude, I saw the Arctic 5 the first morning.
Wow.
Like there was so much game in Greenland. It was just fantastic, man. Like I can't speak highly enough about that trip. And yeah, it was quite the adventure, you know.
It was probably cool seeing like you were saying earlier, like a completely different hunting culture. I mean, even, you know, completely different in another country.
Yeah, I'm gonna put her in the other room 1 sec.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. You know, in terms of like hunting culture, like the way they do things is so different. Like Greenland has like a national meat hunt. So they don't have, there's no cattle in Greenland, right? It's a giant frozen rock.
Yeah.
And so they use the musk ox for like their meat industry.
Oh, wow.
And so prior to our hunt starting was like the national meat hunt. And I mean, they just go out and kill tons of musk ox to have meat.
Wow.
And so we would be out hiking around and you just find like 3 giant dead heads, like musk ox dead heads, you know, still with the hide on them and everything. And at first we were like, why the hell would they like just leave these?
Yeah.
But then in hindsight, you know, it's like, wait, like these guys are purely hunting to survive. Like they don't care about, you know, they don't care about bones. Like they kill these things. They take every drop of meat and they leave what they don't need. And they don't need, you know, a giant, you know, 100-pound head with horns.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was like, it wasn't uncommon to find dead heads, for example.
Yeah.
And that, like, seeing that type of hunting culture is good. Like, you know, we should experience those things. We should see those things so we can see it from their perspective and their side of it. Because for us, it was a completely different experience. You know, we were going over there not as a meat hunt. We couldn't even bring the meat home. You know, we went for that purpose, and it was completely opposite for how they do it. So it was kind of interesting to see it in that light.
Could you bring your head home?
So it had, not right away though. It has to
be boiled.
It sits in Greenland until June when the fjord melts, and then a cargo ship comes in and they, you know, bring supplies and stuff because they're completely iced in right now. And when that ship comes in, they'll load all the hides and heads and everything up, ship them to Denmark, and in Denmark they'll get tanned, they'll get inspected. They have to get certified by like their version of Fish and Wildlife.
Yeah.
They have to get certified for export and get a stamp and stuff. And so it'll probably be a year before it's back in the U.S.
Yeah, well, that's cool though. Man, that sounds like a really cool adventure. And what kind of so where I come from, like it's 20 degrees is cold here.
Yeah.
So like what kind of gear do you have to take to like survive in that kind of extreme temperatures?
Yeah, well, and what's even crazier about it is like, you know, it's cold standing still, right? Like when you're not moving. But to get from the cabin to where we were hunting was about a 2-hour snowmobile ride.
Yeah.
So now you're adding in essentially a wind chill factor.
Yeah.
and you're not moving.
Yeah.
So it's like you're sitting still. You know, I was in like a little sled
For 2
and
hours?
so you're sitting.
That's brutal.
Yeah, dude, brutal. The first day,
It's like torture.
I've never been as cold in my life as I was the first day, because I just wasn't prepared. Like, I didn't realize that was happening.
Yeah.
And so I only wore I had 2 pairs of, okay, so going back to gear, I guess let me start with that. So I actually did an Instagram reel where I showed like all my layers that I was going to take. And every day I'd wear 7 layers. Now, I don't do great in the cold. Like, it's just,
Me either.
I don't know why, but it is what it is, dude. My friend that went with me, he was wearing like 4 layers, and he was great. He was just like, man, this is good. I'm comfortable. I needed 7, and it just is what it is. Like, I would do merino base layers, and then just build out from there. Like, okay, I need a second layer, and then a midweight layer, and then a down layer, and then an outer layer, and then another outer layer, and then a fur hat. And it was so cold that, like, dude, there were times where like you'd be talking or doing something, and like the wind would hit and make your eyes water, and as soon as your eyes would water and like a tear would form, it would freeze your eyes shut.
Oh my gosh.
Because like you'd have water in the corner of your eye, and so you'd be like talking, blinking, like, oh, my eyes watering, and next thing you know, it'd like freeze your eye shut, like, and like pry your eye back open.
Dude, that's like, hardcore.
Oh my gosh, it was just, I've never felt cold like that. But it totally made it all part of the experience. As cheesy as that sounds,
no, yeah,
it would have been a completely different hunt if you weren't battling that. I mean, because
sure.
Everything you did, you had to plan for the cold.
Yeah.
When we were doing, there were northern lights one night, and it was like the coldest night. Well, we had a kerosene heater inside our cabin, and so we would sit. I would I would sit in front of the kerosene heater just until the point where I was like about to break a sweat, and then run outside real quick, sit and just like stare up at the northern lights for like 5 minutes until the point where I was like about to freeze, run back inside, get in front of the kerosene heater, get warmed up, back to the point where I was about to start sweating, and then run back outside. It's just that type of cold, man. Like,
it's not like you go outside and it's like, oh, brutal. I'm cold, this is inconvenient. It's like, this is dangerous. I could freeze to death. I got to go back in.
It's like actual physical pain.
Wow,
it's weird. It's like physical pain. And so you're trying to not expose skin, but every once in a while, like, we had one day, like, if you look back at the pictures, I think the day I killed my musk ox, I bet it got up into the upper teens. And so, like, there's a couple pictures where we took like our hats and everything off, and because we were sweating, like, hiking a mile and a half, 2 miles up the mountains after these animals, like, you start to break a sweat. And that's when things get scary, is like when you're super sweaty. And so even though you weren't tired, you had to force yourself to stop. You had to like force yourself to stop, let some cold air into your shirt, cool down, because, dude, if you get wet and start sweating, like,
done,
you're gonna be in so much trouble.
What kind of boots did you take to keep your feet dry, or what'd you do? Did you put did you have those over boot insulator things or anything, or dude, keep your feet warm?
That's the one thing I did wrong. I think I didn't plan good footwear. It was fine, but I could have done better. I did the Lacrosse Alpha Burley Pros, so it's actually like a muck boot, but it's like insulated and it's super warm. I wore them in Alaska because I knew it was going to be snowy and wet and cold and, just crappy. Yeah. And I did fine in Alaska, but Alaska was also, in the 20s and 30s. It was just windy and wet. So this was 50 degrees colder than that. God. And so I just didn't plan well. The one thing that I did do well that I'd recommend is I bought some alpaca socks. And those alpaca socks are, substantially warmer than any wool socks I've ever owned. They're thicker, they're heavier, they're warmer. They do really well if your feet get sweaty. And so one day, the first day when my feet got really cold, I just wore alpaca socks with wool socks, like wool and then the alpaca over the top, and my feet froze. The second day, I double layered my alpaca socks, and my boots are a little bit bigger, right? Because to be able to have that much space, like I bought my boots a half size big, and so that can help keep the air in the boot warm, and not have your toes like against the outside of the boot, and it also gives space for the sock. And so I bought my boots a half size big, double layered the alpaca socks, and then I was fine.
Cool.
But,
cool, man. Well, I got a hunt coming up this year in like the mountains in Idaho in late October, and I'm like already starting to plan ahead for the cold, because like I said, like for me, like 20s, 15, even teens is cold, so nothing like Greenland, but
the weird thing is, like, the weather in Idaho is so strange, man. Like, there's been times in October where I hunt the entire month of October in a t-shirt.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. And then it'll just randomly change to like 5 degrees. Dude,
this year in October, on the opener, I shot a deer on the opener, so that was October 10th. That night, and again, it was 60 degrees. I was wearing a t-shirt. I had my one-person tent, because I was backcountry hunting. I was by myself. I have a one-person tent, so I had my deer all skinned and everything, hanging in bags, all quartered. Have the head on the ground. I went to bed, and I woke up because something really, really cold was pressing against my face, and I was like, it's like, this isn't normal, It's like just this wet weight. Weird. And I wake up and I put my hands on it, and my tent had completely collapsed.
Oh my God.
In the snow. And so I pushed the tent off. I push it off my face, get all the snow, get it all set back up. I step outside, and dude, like probably 10 inches of snow had fallen.
Oh my gosh.
And so
from
all night
60
now,
to 10 inches of snow.
Dude, it was insane. And so I didn't sleep. I posted an Instagram reel where it was like me with my deer, short sleeve shirt, and then like 12 hours later, I wake up and it's like whiteout.
Nice.
So you just never know, man. Because then all night, like I couldn't sleep because I didn't want my tent to collapse.
Right.
And so like I'd set an alarm on my phone, and every 45 minutes I'd wake up, hit all the snow off my tent, and dude, I was soaked. I was cold. Like the only thing is I had a really nice 0 degree down sleeping bag. And so dude, I just crawled inside that thing and stayed warm, and I was a little wet, but
yeah,
it was,
yeah, I think I'm going to do a hot tent for this one just because I don't like cold either. Yeah. I just got a little stove set up and a teepee, so I'm looking forward to trying that out. But
awesome.
I just saw, speaking of Instagram, I just saw like a reel, like that huge freaking blacktail you shot. Thing was a monster. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about I wanted to ask you about the deer slam, man. You got one more, right?
Yeah, I got one more. Yeah, so there's 5 species in the North American deer slam, right? The Sitka blacktail in Alaska, the Columbia blacktail, the Coues deer, the whitetail deer, and the mule deer. And I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, I kind of was just like, that'd be so cool to have a wall in my house with all 5 species of the deer slam. Because a lot of people are just like, oh, a deer's a deer. And I'm a deer freak. I'm just like, dude, I love deer. Any species, don't care. I just love deer. And so I decided to start working towards this deer slam. And the Coues deer is the only one I have left. I've never hunted them. And so I'm going to try and get that done this year. But
I did that
actually,
this year.
The one that I was... Oh, yeah? Did you kill one?
No.
Oh, you went with Brad. Yeah, you went with Brad, huh?
Yeah. Okay. I went with Brad and Brian, and like so they did, I did a couple stalks with both of them, but I was filming, and then I did one stalk on a mule deer. But dude, those things, are you doing archery or rifle?
I put in for a rifle tag.
Okay. So yeah, those things, killing one of those things with a bow is like next level, dude. Like I'd always heard people say it, but seeing it firsthand, I mean, it is like when you say like we would go on a stalk, that was like all day long trying to get in bow range of this thing. And still they have like a sixth sense. Like nobody killed one that trip. And then, but we are going to go back. We're going to go to Mexico and rifle hunt them this year.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
So hopefully, Lord willing, I'll be able to scratch off 2 subspecies on my slam this year: mule deer and the
Awesome.
coos.
Mule deer and the coos, yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, I always tell people like
And I got my Sitka
that
over here.
black. Yeah, heck yeah. Of all the deer I've ever killed, the Columbia blacktail is the only deer where I can say I don't necessarily feel like I earned that one, and I'm not
Oh, really?
I'm not shy about it. I'll tell anybody that. Like
Why is that?
always worked for my deer. It was weird, man. Like I went with a guy who's a friend of mine, and he invited me. He's like, dude, come on out. We'll have a blast, And so I left Boise at like 4 a.m, bombed all the way to Western Oregon. It was like an 8-hour drive to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting in my truck. I'm waiting for him to get off work. And he pulls up and he's like, dude, I just got off work a few minutes early, and I've been seeing this buck on this mountainside over here. He's like, I got off work and I ran up the road to find him in the spotter. He's like, sure enough, dude, I only glassed for like 5 minutes and I found him bedded down. He's like, it's the same buck. He's been there for 3 days. He's like, the downside is there's someone up on that mountain, like hiking that ridge right now. So we need to book it up there and get up there and kill him before he gets out of his bed. And I'm just like, okay. Like I had been there for like 4 minutes at this point, right? And we're already like, let's go kill this deer. I'm like, okay. Like I hop in his truck. I mean, full send up the mountain because we're trying to get there before these people bust him out of his bed.
Were they hunting or just hiking?
Hunting.
Okay.
And I have a video of this because it happened so fast. Like literally we parked the truck. He gets out with his spotter in hand, puts it down, looks, and he hadn't been looking 5 seconds in the spotter. And he turns to me and he goes, he's right there. And I was like, what? I look in the spotter and sure enough, here's this blacktail. He's bedded down facing me. And he's just like, boom, this big old frame.
I thought he was a mule deer at first when I saw him.
Crap. Yeah. And I'm like, holy crap, dude. He's like 450 yards away. And he's like, let's kill this thing. So now look at it from my perspective, right? I'm not complaining at all. Like so much fun. But I had got there, hopped in the truck, driven up, got out of the truck, and was now getting on my gun in a span of maybe 30 minutes. Okay. I've never had a hunt go like this before.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, pull the trigger, buck's dead. And I so excited, right? I mean, couldn't have done it without him. But at the same time, like, I didn't do anything to earn that deer.
Yeah.
Nothing. Literally all I did was pull the trigger. I just showed up and pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
And so that was
you were ready though.
Feeling. It was a tough shot. I had to like thread the needle on a long shot on a bedded buck, which was really challenging. But the one part where I'll say I did feel like I earned it after the fact was it took us probably 2 hours to recover that deer in a downpour.
Oh man.
And I was like, we could not find him because it was in logging country, and everything looks the same. It's steep, it's rugged. There's downed trees everywhere. There's brush. It's thick. It's pouring rain, and we could not find. So there's no blood, and we couldn't find him. And it took us 2 hours, and finally I found him. And
that's the worst,
so, like,
man. When you're like just looking,
yeah.
you're like, please God, please God.
Dude, I had to go back and rewatch the video over and over and over, and then finally, because we're trying to figure out like where was he? Like, okay, where was his bed? Was this his bed?
Yeah.
And then that means he, slid down the hill here, and then you'd look and there'd be nothing there. And so you're like, okay, either I'm wrong or I'm missing him or he ran off, like so many things. And so finally we recovered him and packed him out. But yeah, it was awesome, man. It's a crazy experience. But I've never had a hunt go like that where it was like, show up. Oh, here's the deer. Deer's dead. Like that fast.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes, you get blessed or lucky or whatever. Yeah, dude. So you put in for coos in Arizona? Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this year usually I have a pretty good plan on what I'm going to do. But this year I don't know yet. My main focus is coos deer so I can round out the slam.
Any other cool hunts you got lined up you're looking forward to?
Um, I mean, there's so many things I want to do, but I don't have anything lined up.
Yeah.
I really want to either do a mountain goat or an ibex here pretty soon. So one of those two things, but I don't know, man. We'll see.
Yeah. Would that be, I guess, ibex? That's international. Goat
Yeah,
could
I'd
be.
go to.
When did you go to Kodiak?
I'm gonna try. I went in December.
Oh, that was when you went this year? Is that when you got your Sitka?
Mhm.
Okay, I did
Yeah,
I did
cool.
Kodiak this year in August.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
Very
Man.
different times. I bet
Yeah,
that was
very
awesome.
different.
I'd like to go back when it's warm.
Dude, August is really cool because they're up in the Alpine, and we flew into a lake, and we just did a drop camp up there, and the weather was not perfect, but it was pretty nice, and deer bright orange, and everything's bright green and berries everywhere, and it was really cool.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, man. Well, anyway, dude, anything else? I wanted to kind of ask you a little bit about like Right On and marketing and all that like businessy stuff. Maybe we can do another one
Yeah.
sometime and dive into that stuff, but just this, we were
Yeah,
flowing on
totally.
the hunting stuff. So,
Yeah. I mean, I got a bunch of new stuff going on right now, so yeah, we can definitely that'd be a good one for a later date.
yeah,
But
for sure, man.
yeah, awesome, man. It was fun to chat hunting and stuff.
Yeah, it's good catching up with you, dude. Where can people find you if they want to check out some of your stuff?
Instagram is where I'm most active. It's just Austin, AUSTIN period Legg LEGG.
Cool. Cool, man. Well, thanks again
Yeah.
for your time, and it was good chatting with you.
Thanks a ton, dude. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you soon.
All right.